Mr. Mayor, we are
Councillors, welcome to our extraordinary meeting. I declare this meeting open at 6:11 p.m. I'd like to do the acknowledgement of country first. The council acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which this meeting is being held as the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nations, and we pay our respects to their elders, past and future. I don't think we have any apologies.
No.
Thank you.
At the end, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry. No, the staff and public are reminded that this meeting is being recorded for minute-taking purposes and is also being webcast live on Council's website. This recording will be made available on Council's website. The order of business is as shown in the agenda. Council's Code of Meeting Practice prohibits the electronic recording of meetings without the express permission of Council. Do we have any disclosures of interest? No. We've got 4 speakers registered for tonight's meeting. I'll remind the speakers that speakers have 3 minutes time limit. Speakers are subject to the provision of Council's Code of Conduct when addressing the meeting. The first sound you hear indicates that you have 1 minute remaining. At the second sound,
Hello.
please.
Hurstville Town Centre in its heyday was a jewel of the St George district. It was the place to shop, to meet, to take a light meal, to see a movie, a place of romance. Over 80 years ago, my grandma
Ms. Derwin, could you please stop talking and you'll start again soon. At the second sound, please conclude your comments. Now, the first speaker is Ms. Melissa Derwin. She will be talking on Hurstville Revitalisation Project, Public Space Legacy Project. Are you still there, Ms. Derwin? Hello?
Mr. Mayor, we do have Ms. Derwin online.
Ms. Derwin, could you address the council? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Hurstville Town Centre in its heyday was a jewel of the St George district. It was a place to shop, to meet, to take a light meal, to see a movie, a place of romance. Over 80 years ago, my grandparents met in open space at Hurstville Town Centre, Hurstville War Memorial Plaza. The rest is now history. Sadly, the romance of Hurstville Town Centre died at some point. The $4.5 million transformation grant is a chance to help make Hurstville a better place for people to visit, for people to stay. It needs to be a jewel in our community. Like many visitors to Hurstville, I avoid the Palm Court area because the current car park is dangerous and it's not a place to take children. Open space and open play would give me and many other families a reason to visit that end of Hurstville. It's good to see Shannon Reserve at Surrey Hills in the council report. It's a park that gets my workmates and I out of our office. It's a place that I've taken my family to over the years many times. It gets people out and shopping in surrounding businesses, all while being next to 3 lanes of busy city traffic. It just melts away when you're in the park. Imagine having thousands of customers within walking distance of your business. Imagine having hundreds of workers within walking distance of your business and having the opportunity to transform the one thing that deters all these customers from coming near your business. Change is hard for people to get used to, but changing part of Palm Court car park into open space is the change that Hurstville needs. The grant is what council needs for this to happen. When you think of Hurstville in 10 years' time, what do you see? Imagine it, and let's make that image real. Let's bring back the love for Hurstville. Thank you, council.
Thank you, Ms. Horn. Gabriel Metcalf, a committee for Sydney, and the staff are going to read out a written submission. Thank you.
Dear councillors, I'm writing to express the Committee for Sydney's support for the proposed project to transform Palm Court into a modern, green urban plaza under the Public Place Legacy program. High streets are centres of social life. They offer convenience, amenity, and the space for simple pleasures like meeting friends or enjoying a stroll in the sun. Cities all over the world are reclaiming their high streets for public life and for good reason. In Sydney, like all cities, the land area devoted to streets and roads is much larger than the area devoted to parks. Most streets need to provide a balance of both movement and place. On high streets, such as Forest Road in Hurstville, we believe place should be prioritised, not movement. The Palm Court transformation would do just this, giving space back to people. The committee notes that the majority of housing in Hurstville Centre is high density. The limited public spaces are heavily utilised and act as backyards for the many families living in apartments. Therefore, we are highly supportive of Council's Palm Court transformation project, which will see the existing car park transformed into public open space with elements of play, tree plantings and seating. Being a strategic centre, there should be a commitment by Council to improve and increase public domain area in Hurstville for both visitors and workers. This will ensure Hurstville remains a thriving centre that is an appealing place to work, visit and invest. Building centres that put people first is good for business. Public spaces provide important benefits such as boosted labour productivity, enhanced property values and expanded business incomes due to increased street activity. Changes in consumer expenditure and behaviours, driven in part by the impact of COVID-19, pose a number of challenges to many businesses in town centres. Great public spaces such as a transformed Palm Court can breathe fresh life into the Hurstville City Centre. We hope the project to transform Palm Court is approved by Council. I'm happy for you to share our email with the councillors.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mr. David Harding, Business New South Wales. Staff to read out a written submission. Thank you. Same project.
Dear councillors, a quick note below to support the proposed Palm Court initiative. Your council should be highly congratulated for the Hurstville Revitalisation Project and the commitment to improving public realm and supporting local businesses, residents, visitors and workers. This will undoubtedly drive livability and local business growth. I believe that town centres that are vibrant, safe and prosperous are ones that attract most investment, and this is very much to do with the quality of the public spaces. This is supported by numerous local and global examples that demonstrate that by building town centres that are interesting, safe, green, welcoming and encourage and support pedestrians will also be good for local business. Increasing visitation by pedestrians will likely increase retail turnover for small businesses, probably significantly. It's good to know that the proposal for Palm Court also aims to find a sensible balance between the need for parking and the need for improved public amenity. If Council supports the move to undertake Palm Court transformation works, I truly believe that this will be of benefit to the growth of Hurstville and of benefit to its people in many ways. All the very best.
Thank you. The next speaker who will address us remotely is Mr. James Lidders on the same matter. Is he? Mr. Lidders, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, by all means, proceed to address the council. Thank you.
You may proceed, Mr. Lidders.
Oh, thank you. I'm here tonight on behalf of landowners and businesses which are in close proximity to the parking which has existed in this location for some decades. This parking was created through council's efforts to assist businesses in the area over many decades. So I think that you need to consider the infrastructure that's been created there and provided for many decades, and these commercial businesses, many ratepayers they are, who have provided their funds for this infrastructure. So our clients wish to maintain this infrastructure in its current position as it is. The parking which will be displaced from here is in an inconvenient location and does not in any way deal with the issues that these businesses have, which is very special for them in terms of their customers accessing that parking, which is directly outside their businesses and direct for them. They already have sufficient competition in Westfield Shopping Centre from other people, and this is, if you take any parking away from here at all any further, you really are going to create a situation for them which will be negative and is in no way compensated for, if I can put it in those terms, with the parking that you're providing elsewhere. So in your deliberations, I think you need to take those particular points into consideration.
Thanks.
There are other matters as well which are of concern to our client and the other business owners there, and we've put this in our submission on a couple of occasions to council now at least. They also relate to the actual effort that council will go to create something that's really not really of much benefit to anybody because of the safety and security concerns in terms of traffic conflict and pedestrian conflict, and the very small component that you'll actually create of open space is not really of any real benefit in that particular location, and we've pointed that out in our submission. Also, the fact that the nighttime economy needs to be considered here, that is nowhere in the consideration, and we really think that's an important point for Hurstville Town Centre and for our clients as well. That's another consideration that council should be bearing in on their decision making for this particular matter. So they're the issues that we've raised previously in our submissions, and we provide those concerns from our client's perspective and also from other business owners in were directly affected by this. That's the key. Directly affected are these business owners, other people that this report says will benefit from a small bit of open space in an inappropriate location, in our view, doesn't make a good decision. So I'll leave you with that information in your deliberations, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Lidders. Councillors will now go to item CCLs 024-22, Hurstville Revitalisation Project Public Spaces Legacy. Councillor Symington. Could you just could you put your microphone on, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
Roxanne has that amendment. Okay. So part A, the council notes the community consultation to date on the Hurstville Revitalisation Project Public Spaces Legacy Program, including the concerns raised by local businesses in Hurstville. B, the Mayor write to the Honourable Anthony Roberts MP, Minister for Planning and Homes, to seek a variation to the funding agreement, to remove the Palm Court component and to reallocate the funding to the remaining projects identified in the Hurstville Heart of the City Place strategy and Hurstville City Revitalisation projects. In the event that the Minister accepts the variation, Council will proceed to retain Palm Court as a car park in order to support small business struggling to recover from the devastating pandemic lockdowns, and will carry out all necessary actions to ensure this happens.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ben Wang. Thank you.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk to your
Yes.
motion,
Thank
Councillor
you, Mayor.
Simon? Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank all the people that participated in the public forum tonight. That's why we're in an open and transparent meeting, so people that are for this or against this actually get to speak and air their views. The most impacted people here are the shopkeepers. It's a loss of convenience for their customers and a detriment to them. Council should not be systematically and deliberately taking parking away from struggling businesses who rely on this hub. The last 2 years have been unprecedented, COVID pandemic times. Palm Court is their mainstay. There's 31 spots there, and the turnover is quite frequent. It will drop to 9 spots. 12 spots will be in Tracy Street and 10 will be lost. And so it's not just as simple as you're just losing 10 spots. Those 12 spots that go to Tracy Street, it's not necessarily those people are going to go to Tracy Street. I can assure you, as a former business owner, people want quick. They're in, they're out. If they can't do it quickly, they'll go somewhere else. That's the beauty of this hub. I acknowledge that there's been various forms of consultation since 2019, but the bottom line is that the most impacted, directly impacted people feel like they've been ignored. Eventually, there was targeted consultation on the 17th of March to businesses, and when we had our confidential session last week, I read out those questions to you and asked you to judge those questions. Just maybe if those impacted people have been brought closer into the process, maybe there could have been a win-win situation. Maybe there could have been a compromise. I don't know. I mean, that's hindsight, but they feel like they haven't been included. And I repeat, they're not 12,000 other people in the community. They're the people directly impacted. Now, I'll also go now, I'm not going to speak very long, but in relation to the grant funding, there are other domains within the Hurstville area, and in the heart of the city place strategy, you'll see those other domains where concepts have been formulated. Minister Roberts seems to be a reasonable person, actually quite jovial when he's in the Parliament. So, considering the state government has made it a priority to support businesses coming out of pandemic COVID times, I see no reason why that request would be denied. In relation to the grant funding being transferred to Mortdale, Riverwood and Oatley, the rationale for these motions is inconsistent with what I've been told. It was my understanding that this was a matter of urgency. Now there's time to do lead-up work, there's time to find other sites, time to undertake consultation, time to make more plans to get it constructed by the 30th of December 2022. So I make the natural assumption that councillors Kondarski, Smerdley and Almere are privy to information that I'm not aware of. But anyway, that's something I don't know about, but councillors, by supporting my motion, you're supporting the viability of the businesses in that Hurstville area. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wang, would you like to, as the seconder, make any comments?
Councillors, so I just want to support Councillor Samington's amendment, and I appeal to all the councillors for some common sense. So Hurstville is short of open space, green space, no doubt about it. But parking is also extremely hard. I don't know all of you guys, but I drive to Hurstville regularly. It's really hard to find a parking spot, especially, free one. So the Tracy Street, I think it's a good idea. We can create more parking space, but we cannot just use that as an excuse to offset the loss of the Palm Court. So we should encourage the council to continue to increase the parking space on the Tracy Street while maintaining the parking space on the Palm Court. We have two or three other projects. We can create more open space and green space. We take one step at a time, and like the War Memorial. So that area is, I think it has some opportunity there to improve the green space and open space. And so I also just want to call attention to what happened on the forest near the town center. So along the War Memorial, there's some one line parking just a spot. It was taken away by the council for whatever reason, but later on, so the business were crying out, you know, and the later one was put back to the business. They are very happy with that. Just imagine what happens if you take away the palm court. So yeah, I don't go to all the details or repeat what Colin just said. I just appeal for all the councillors to support the Colin's amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Wang. Is there any discussion against the motion? Okay. Sorry. Sorry about that. Councillor Nancy.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, councillors, for giving me the opportunity to speak a few words. I've been in Hurstville Ward councillors for 14 years. I'm not just regularly come to the centre. I'm shopping, I'm working in the city centre for so long. So that's why I wanted to say no to the amendment. I wanted to support the original one. Why? In general, in principle, I think Hurstville City Centre, especially the Forest Road, which is a very vibrant town centre in the whole LGA. We're coming here for shopping. We're coming here for spend our time with families. So during the weekend or even after work, I think I understand how important the people coming to the centre to do whatever they wanted to spend their time. So that's why I wanted to say, in general, in principle, we need these revitalization project to be processed to go ongoing with the rest of the contract. Because I think in the broader concept, I like the report. It says when you design the city with cars, there are more cars coming to the center. When you design the city with people, the people coming here. I think that's on the page 7 or 8. I like that quotes. So that's why council and all your councillors are playing very important role in leading the directions. That's for the future, not only for our generation, for our later generation. Maybe 20 or 30 years later, when your children ask, oh, why we don't have more green space on this city center, you might tell them, sorry, we miss out that chance. We say no to that money because that money is from state government. We do not need, our ratepayers do not need to pay 1 single cent out of our own pocket. Why we are going to say no to that? I've been councillor for 13 years in this ward. I remember the last chance we get Hurstville Ward along Forest Road more beautiful is we changed the pavement, right? That's back to maybe 10 years ago. So after that, I've been here for so long, I can't see many changes, right? So that's why in principle, I support the original one. We need that. We need that open space in this concrete city, like a Hurstville CBD. So that's why I won't support this double standard. On this hand, we said we need this open space. The other side, we say no to the money. So I wanted to go with one standard that we want more open space. I understand and fully acknowledge the business close to that site. How important they rely on that parking. So that's why council create more parking space in Tracy Street. It only within walking distance. It's just on the back of the street. And the other concept is in the city, you are not only rely on one road or two roads. You need to create more off-street side. So Tracy Street really on the back of the Forest Road is close to the train line. That's more vibrant needed to be created. So the other hand, I wanted to point out is I don't want to see this kind of scare campaign from the political purpose, right? You need to tell the people that, what? Oh, sorry.
Councillor Simonton, you have
Scare
a point of order.
campaign, that sounds very inappropriate. Where is that coming from? Point of order.
Do I need to answer it?
Yeah. Political campaign, not smear campaign. Is that what you said?
Scare.
Scare campaign.
I think,
Where do you get this scare campaign?
yeah, I think people need to be told of the whole picture, the whole story. Like if we lose, we're not going to lose the whole car park, right? We have something to make up. So that's why I wanted to see the whole story being told to the people. Right? That's where I'm coming from. If you think it's not a proper one, I take it out. But I really want to see the whole picture and the whole transparency to the community, especially to the
fair
business.
enough. I take your point.
Thank
At
you.
the same time, just stick to your factual information
thank
rather
you.
than
So
information that you make
thank
up.
you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. In conclusion, I really wanted to our councillors all in here today to consider our roads in the whole project, not only thinking of, yeah, of course, the car park is the most important thing, one of the most important aspects we are going to consider. Put everything together, so see the big picture for the long run, for the long term. I think that's our responsibility to be the councillor to do the job. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Luke.
I ask a question?
Yes, by all means. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to clarify something, my understanding is, and certainly the report indicates, that there has been extensive consultation on this. Certainly, business owners, representatives of business owners came and saw me in 2020, and it was as a result of that the plans were in fact changed after additional consultation. That's how the 12 Tracy Street car parks came about. Could I just have that confirmed by staff that my recollection is in fact correct?
Ms. Weatherly, thank you.
Through you, Mayor, yes, that is correct. The original scheme included only the 10 spaces on the edge of Palm Court. As a consequence of submissions raised by some local businesses, the council asked the staff to consider alternatives about how the parking could be increased, and that's when we looked at the options of putting the additional parking in Tracy Street, which is just across the road, and that was a direct result of concerns raised with the businesses by the businesses at that time.
I have a question.
Thank you, Ms. Weatherly.
Through you to the director, Ms. Weatherly. My recollection is that business owners raised concerns with myself, and plans were changed, but they weren't involved in those plans. They were sent out to them. They weren't. They didn't have any kind of take in changing those plans.
I'm sure that was what we were asked to do. We were asked to by the council to look at some alternatives and then consult with the businesses, and that's what we did. And the only feasible opportunity for additional parking at Palm as a result of Palm Court was we looked at angled parking off Forest Road, but that wouldn't have been allowed by the traffic rules. So the only feasible option we could find was actually to put the additional parking, more parking into Tracy Street. It's on the street. It's not in the Tracy Street car park. It's actually on the street. It's part of the street parking. Changed in the configuration from parallel parking to angled parking, which enables us to increase the amount of parking there by 12.
Thank you, Ms. Weatherly.
Oh.
Yes. Councillor Lu. No. Can we stand up when we're asking questions? Yeah. Sorry?
Yes, his one is on, so that's why I'm still waiting. Yeah, one more question. Yeah, one more question through you, Mr. Mayor, to the director. Can I ask, is any possibility, because Councillor Wang just mentioned for that memorial park, is there any way that we can create that at least 9 or 10 parking space over there, so we can just make up, so we just comply and satisfy with the car policy? Thank you, Mr. Thank you, through Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Ms. Beverley.
Through you again. Now, I understand the question is it possible to put parking into Memorial Square? I think is, as I understand, is the question. It may be possible. We haven't actually ever looked at that as a proposal because we looked at sites where it would be relatively easy to do. Memorial Square would be difficult. The council has actually already adopted concept plans for the redesign of Memorial Square, but in theory, you could change angled parking into, parallel parking into angled parking there possibly, but there are some problems with the fact that that's a bus route and you can't reverse back into the bus route, which is the primarily reason we couldn't put angled parking into Palm Court either.
Thank you. Councillor Green, I believe that Councillor Roberts wanted information. Yes.
I must ask you a question, sorry.
By all means, ask the question.
Yeah, my apologies. Just wanted to clarify my recollection, Mr. Mayor, through you, perhaps to the council staff, and maybe this predates them. My recollection is that Hurstville Council were looking, just to jump back, obviously this became a one-way thoroughfare. It was supposed to be a mall when it changed in the 1990s, and there was, extensive changes there when all the parking was taken out and became a one-way street. That was in the 1990s. The grand plan originally being no traffic at all and having a mall, and it was changed. But then I'm just recollecting, well before my time as a councillor, Hurstville Council actually also looked to update works, but then that stopped because there was such an uproar, because part of their upgrade of Forest Road and trying to green the environment, it fell apart. And please confirm my recollection if possible to the staff, basically because they proposed putting a cafe right on the edge of Memorial Square, and it was considered to be somewhat sacrilegious to do so. Is that, if my recollection is correct?
I'm not, through Mr. Mayor, I'm not 100% certain that is correct, but my initial reaction to any idea that we put parking into Memorial Square, having regard to its ceremonial purpose as well as its role as public space in Hurstville, would mean that would require significant consultation with the relevant RSLs.
Councillor Stratikopoulos, were you speaking for or against?
Yes. I got
against. Well, you got there first, Councillor Hill.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the director. This project is specific to providing all the elements of the project delivered in at once. So revitalisation of McMahon Street, revitalisation of Forest Road around Memorial Square and Palm Court. Is that correct?
Yes, it's a single project in 3 parts, and the Tracy Street car parks were in fact an add-on to deal with the specific issues raised by the local businesses about the loss of parking, and wasn't originally part of the proposal. And therefore, making any adjustment to the proposal under the legacy program would require approval from the grant body, which is the Department of Planning and Environment.
If you want to talk, you need to put your.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. You need to put your thing on. Okay. Yes.
To Councillor Ben Wang, you mentioned that there was car parking taken away. I think you're talking about the temporary removal of car parking along Forest Road near CBA, and there was outdoor seating and dining areas put there. At any time, did you go past and notice how many people were actually using that area? You suggested that the shops were screaming that there was no parking there. However, I walk down that street at least, despite my weight, at least 4 or 5 times a day. And every time I walked past, there was dozens of people out there eating, drinking, playing the Chinese chess. I'm not sure what it's called. Did you notice that at all, Councillor Wang?
Councillor Wang, you may answer the question.
Sorry. Straight, take them off.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, your question is, have I noticed people are playing instead of parking on that parking spot? So certainly that's not the case. Every time I pass, a car parked there. Especially the feedback from the business is the shop owners, they want to unload their goods. They were taken away, so that's why they are crying out. So why are you saying people are playing cards or games in front of the shop instead of parking? Certainly that's not what I have seen.
Thank you, Councillor Wang.
So sorry, may I just add to that? That's people are playing cards, the Chinese chess. They're in the table in the war memorial area. So I know those people. And does this answer your question?
Councillor Wang, thank you. You've answered the question.
Sorry, can I just through you, Mr. Mayor, ask a question for the director?
Sorry?
Can I ask questions through you to the director?
Question?
Yes.
Yeah. No, he's just asking a question. You're asking a question?
Yes.
Yeah, just ask your question.
Okay. So in the war memorial, so there's the water pool, quite big, and it has been dried up, looks very ugly for a very long time. So my question is through you to direct what are we going to do with it? Is that possible to convert that to an open green space so people can have sit down and have a drink and play chess, or have a playground with the kids there? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the council has already adopted new designs for Memorial Square concept stage, which includes removing those spaces and returning it to something like a 21st century piece of public infrastructure. At the moment, those ponds were causing far more problems than any benefit we got from a little bit of water in them from time to time, and as well as having some problems in terms of creating unusable space because it just became barriers. So the proposed plans are, and I'm happy to share it with the council, the new councillors, what those schemes are. They are still at concept stage, however, and some distance away from being turned into detailed designs.
Question to the director.
Another question. Yes, please. Okay. I think I'll take this as the last question for the time being and then I'll allow Councillor Stratikopoulos to actually speak against it. And then if you've got more questions after that, we'll look at them. Thank you, Councillor.
I can let you speak first if you like.
Sorry?
I can let you speak first if you like.
It's entirely up to you. You're entitled to ask a question.
My question was to the director. Back in 2020, when the consultations were made with the businesses, with the car parks and the loss of a couple of spots that we spoke of earlier through Councillor Simonson's inquiries, was everyone happy at that point?
Okay, Ms. Wedley.
I think we still received some submissions from business, from the particular business we've heard from tonight, but we also received from the broader community survey general support for the project. The submission that was made at that time from the submission we've heard tonight was reticent to acknowledge the fact that council had in fact only had a net loss of 10 spaces, but did acknowledge that the council had made an effort to resolve some of the parking concerns that people have been raising.
Thank you. Councillor Stratikopoulos. Is that a follow-up question, or do you? Councillor Stratikopoulos, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to speak against. Councillors, I find it fascinating that Only last week, we wrote to the Premier and Treasurer to request the inclusion of the Georges River LGA within the West Invest project, an idea that I clearly support. Yet here we are today, potentially trying to mess around with an idea that began in the pipeline about 4 years ago. $4.75 million was finally agreed to by the state government on the 6th of May 2021. After 4 years of countless meetings, discussions, and consultations by our council. After all this time, after all this effort, and all the support from countless residents for greener spaces that we so desperately need in a very grey Hurstville, and after finally convincing the state government of our case, there are some councillors that believe that we should just reject this. That's right, reject. No thanks. We don't want the money. Just like little children that have changed their minds at the last minute. I'm thinking if we go down this path, then we'll lose all credibility of the state government and dramatically reduce our chances of our LGA being included in the West Invest project. As one of 3 proud representatives of Kogarah Bay Ward, I won't even go on about the fact that at least one of the other representatives of Kogarah Bay Ward represents a party that claims to be a party of, amongst other things, green climate change warriors. Pretty ironic, isn't it, councillors? My ward borders Hurstville Ward. During the last 2 weeks, I have received countless correspondence from residents in Noble Street, Bellevue Parade, St George's Parade, Empress Street, and West Street. These are streets that, I might add, we're all aware of, contain countless blocks of units. And from an open space perspective, all these people have to enjoy is a tiddly little green patch on Empress Street. Well, how lucky are they?
There's 2 for, 2 against. Would Councillor Simonton like a right? Are you?
I'd like to move an amendment, Mr. Mayor.
Well, yes, I'll
Start
hear your
from the
amendment.
text of it. It's to add a section D to the motion to deal with the eventuality, because what we've got there is a range of motions, and D here would address the circumstances in which we're not successful. So just to read that out for those at home. So to add D, that in the event that the minister does not accept the variation, rather than foregoing millions in additional funding to create much needed open space, support local businesses and create a more livable city, council will proceed with the original plans for the revitalisation of Palm Court.
Councillor Simon, is that acceptable to you? Turn that off, please. Councillor Simon.
Yeah, that's acceptable.
That's acceptable.
Sorry, my apologies. Can I just suggest, with Councillor Teague and Councillor Symington's agreements, that rather the word original, we put current, because original may be interpreted as going back to the version that where it first started, whereas the current obviously has the other. Sorry, I know I'm being semantic, but I'm just trying.
I take that point. I think that's fair. Okay, it's the current. Councillor, can I ask you again? Can I ask you again? Do you accept? Councillor Symington, I'm asking you again. Do you accept the amendment?
Actually, on second thoughts, no.
Thank you. Councillor Wayne, do you accept the amendment?
Sorry, I'm just going to say that I won't insist on the amendment in the circumstances that it has been rejected, but I will foreshadow the officer's recommendation if this motion is defeated.
Okay, so that's not been accepted. Councillor Symington, would you like your right of reply? Thank you.
I'd like to move an amendment, Mr. Mayor. Before right of reply.
The amendment, please.
I'll put a part D up. I'll try and I'll read it slowly, or can I send it to you, Ross?
I'll read it.
Councillor Elmy, can you text that to the staff, please, or email?
Can you move the amendment up, please, so I can read it too? What's that?
Yeah, I'll do that straight away, Mr. Mayor. I'll text it to you, it's probably easier.
Is anyone game to actually second that motion?
Oh, what's that, Mr. Mayor? Is anyone going?
Well, I apologise for it, but I can see what the issue is there. Okay. Could you please read what Councillor on there?
Because the General Manager requested the Minister for Local Government to investigate surcharging the $400,000 in ratepayer funds that were wasted on preparing the project over the past 3 years for reimbursement by all the councillors who have voted not to proceed with the project.
That doesn't. I need a second. Who's going to second it?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Konchowski. Well, we'll have a debate for and debate against. You can speak, Councillor Elmere.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, it puzzles me that after 4 years we've wasted on this, and it is wasted because for 4 years we've been doing briefings, and you were part of the last council term, Mr. Mayor, so was Councillor Symington and a few other councillors around this horseshoe, that after 3-4 years of this, that we're back pretty much to zero. We are now all of a sudden bringing up arguments that could have been brought up some time ago, and we have not just wasted ratepayers' money, but we've also wasted staff time and resources on this. Councillors, I'm seeing this for exactly what it is, because what we're doing here is that we're constantly moving this project away from being able to be delivered by December 2022, which is the terms of reference that are required for us to receive and make sure that we deliver that project of open space in our local area in that time frame. Now, by constantly offsetting, making a decision on this, we're playing games. We're playing games with the money that's been spent on this project, right? We are not delivering on what we've been working on for the last 4 years, and I'm surprised that all of a sudden this has become a major issue on this new term of council, right? Last term of council, we used to hear from residents who, Mr. Marnie was one of them, Councillor Marnie was one of them, speaking about the necessity for open space. There are a few other councillors around this horseshoe that have been speaking about the necessity for open space. And yet, when we've got this opportunity to deliver open space in our town centre, we are moving away from it. We're moving away from it, and not just that, we're also telling the state government, I'm sorry, but we don't want the money, because we're not going to be able to deliver this project by December. And so therefore, I think it's only fair that if councillors want to vote against, if councillors don't want to proceed with this project, then those councillors also put up their money and reimburse the ratepayers for the money that's been wasted over the last 4.5 years. Thank you.
Second, if they'd like to talk to this.
Yes, please. So that's fantastic, Councillor Mayor. Well done. I congratulate you on that amendment. I too am dumbfounded as to why we don't proceed with something that's been in the pipeline for 4 years. I don't understand how councillors support spending in excess of $20 million. So look at buying Glenlee in Lugano, which is part of the Peakhurst Board that has the most open space area in our entire LGA. And I do support buying Glenlee, by the way. I did vote on that. But then reject $4.5 million to build a park in Hurstville that has the least amount of open space in our area. So I congratulate you on that amendment, Sam, and I trust that all the councils that are supporting the purchase of Glenlee actually support open space in Hurstville.
Thank you, Councillor Kondrasik. Councillor Tegg, are you speaking for or against?
Being against the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Tegg.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, look, I'm going to vote against the amendment for 2 reasons. One, because I think it sets a bad precedent. I think everyone here should be entitled to vote with their conscience and their values on these issues. What they're doing when they vote is telling our constituents what they really stand for. You can say anything you like in a campaign. When you get in here and vote, you're either for open space or you're against it. And tonight we're presented with exactly that opportunity. All of our brand new councillors and all our returning councillors can tell their constituents, I'm for open space or I'm against it. That's the only choice you've got here tonight. It's not about parking. You're only losing a handful of spots and the replacements are just around the corner. It's not about traffic flow. It's going to be better. It's going to make Hurstville easier to get into and out of when we make these changes to Palm Court. There's literally no difference tonight between the vote. You can either vote against the motion, Councillor Symington's motion, and then you can vote for the original officer's recommendation, and that's a vote for open space. Or you can vote for Councillor Symington's motion, which is a vote against open space. So my concern, one of the reasons I'm voting against this amendment, and the reason I'm speaking to you, is because I think this amendment will make that less clear. It will make that less obvious to the people voting and to the people at home as to why councillors are voting here tonight. So the reason that I'm against it, Mr. Mayor, is because I think it's very important that everyone realise that tonight your credentials and all the words you spoke during your campaign and all the time you spent chatting with voters and establishing what you stand for and why you want to be here, is on the line tonight. All those words either meant something or they meant nothing. And so that's up to you. That's why I'm against this amendment, because I want it to be really crystal clear to everyone tonight that you can vote against open space or for it. We know that it's popular. We spend a lot of time talking to businesses around there. We've spent a lot of time talking to residents around there. Now, I care about all of them. The reason that we listen to business, we created 12 more spots on Tracy Street. These are not inconvenient spots. It's a 30-metre walk from those spots to the existing Palm Court car park. This creates additional disabled parking that's more accessible than the spots that are in a rat run. They're almost impossible to park in the existing Palm Court car park. So it makes the area more accessible for people with disabilities. So there's no reason to vote for the motion tonight if you're in favour of open space. You're losing nothing, you're spending nothing, and you're getting a huge amount in return. So, councillors, that's why I'm voting against the amendment, because I think it just clouds that a little. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Lansbury.
Can I speak against the amendment, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, where do I start with all that? Firstly, I'd have to contend that it would be an unlawful amendment to impose that sort of money on councillors for just basically doing their job, listening to their community and representing their interests. I'm going to try and address most of those things. Thanks to Councillor Tegg for reminding us what we all committed to during our election campaigns. But open space, in my view, doesn't equate to a pocket park that takes away the amenity for the local businesses. Let's face it, we're not talking about a green space, an open space that people are going to flock to for picnicking like they might do at Cars Park, or even up the road at Kent Field, which is an incredibly well-used park, or the park around the corner in Woodville Park, I think it's called, in Hudson Street. Those are very well-used patches of open space because they're usable. This is going to be a pocket park that is going to be replacing 31 car spaces that service the immediate businesses there. Now, there is a part of this proposal to remove or transfer.
We're not losing all those spaces that you're talking about at Palm Court car park. They will be replaced and only 10 will be lost.
Councillor, look, that's not a point of order. Thank you. Can you keep going?
Just relax, Councillor Konjowski. I'm getting to
Councillor,
that. We're reallocating that. We're shifting 12 spaces around to Treacy Street, which I wonder about the longevity of that, because there was a planning proposal in from council as the landowner in the Treacy Street car park for a 16-storey mixed-use development of residential, commercial, retail, 90 spaces of public car parking, which was rejected, I believe, by the department. I'm not sure of the latest status of that. So eventually, if that site does become developed, those spaces may well become redundant, but let's push that to the side. It just is astonishing to me that we can't actually change our position on something without being accused of all sorts of things, because what is that saying? If the facts change, I change my mind. I was pretty ambivalent about this when it first came to us. I was like, yeah, it's a nice idea, but it possibly isn't going to be that practical for the businesses that are immediately located around there. I, for one, have used to use parking along Forest Road or Palm Court when I used to, in old days when we used to get cash out of ATMs, and it became increasingly more difficult to secure a space in that vicinity because car spaces have been systematically taken away from Forest Road over the years. And let's also consider the fact that with the McMahon Court one, which we've kind of not discussed really that much apart from supporting it, there's a number of spaces being removed from what's currently there now. So, you know, there is a tipping point. So you might say it's only 10 spaces on McMahon Street, from Palm Court. And there's, I think, about 4 spaces going from the McMahon Court project. And over the years, more spaces that were on Forest Road that serviced it, some of those businesses there have gone. They're now loading zones. So the average driver can't park there. And somebody said tonight about, you know, people, we want to attract people, not cars. Well, can I remind you, the cars don't drive themselves. It's people in the cars that park. And if they can't find somewhere close to where they're shopping, they will keep going. They'll go park in Westfield and they'll just go to the nearest shop there. It's just fact. It's people are creatures of habit and they like things to be quick and easy. As Councillor Symington said, if you want to just race into a store quickly and grab something, that is where you want to go. You don't want to have to drive around the block 100 times to find a spot. You will keep going. Now, we are not talking about a really high quality patch of open space that is going to service the local schools to kick a ball around. It's not that. At night time, it could become a bit of a wasteland opposite a pub, which I know people have a problem with the pub advocating for retaining the spot. At night time, it might not be as safe and secure as it should be. So, you know, how about let's accept that we have a view, a number of councillors here tonight have a view. We would like to remove this project from the Hurstville Revitalisation Project because we think turning it into a car park, turning it into a park from a functioning car park is detrimental to our local businesses. How about we listen to the ones that will be impacted by this particular proposal and support them instead of digging in some ideological process that people seem to have adopted tonight, that it's the end of the world if we don't proceed with it. Actually, no, it's not. We've changed our mind. Organisations, councils, companies change their minds about projects that they were going to pursue all the time, and this should be no different. So, councillors, please support the original amendment from Councillor Symington and Councillor Wang, and don't even give this one any more oxygen. It's crazy.
Councillor Amir, have you got a question? You spoke. Do you want your right of reply? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, it comes as no surprise, Mr. Mayor, that obviously some people would not like to put their money where their mouth is on this issue. But yeah, one thing that's becoming quite evident tonight, and you know, I agree, Councillor Lansbury, sometimes people do change their mind, but they change their mind based on facts and research and things that are presented before them. We seem to be changing our mind with the already present facts that have been there for 4 years. It puzzles me. It puzzles me that we are choosing pokies over parks. It just does not make sense. So, Mr. Mayor, I'll leave it at that. I think that if people are going to be willing to stop this project from moving ahead, then, you know what, pay back the ratepayers and and fork out the $400,000 that's already been spent on this.
Thank you, Councillor Mayor. Councillor Marnie, that was just the right of reply. Have you got a question?
Just like to address the some of the comments made by councillors tonight.
Persons put a right of reply, then we'll need to.
Yeah, it's just some of the debate.
Have you got some clarifications? I'll take clarifications, but please, not a speech. Clarifications I'll take. If once you go into a speech, I'll have to stop you.
Won't be a speech. Can somebody clarify the obligations?
Councillor and me, what's your point of order?
For a question for it to be clarified.
What was your question?
A question would be in order, Mr. Mayor, but a clarification. No one asked a question to Peter Money.
I'm taking clarifications. I will take clarifications and questions, even though the right of reply is good, because we did that last time. But please stick to a clarification.
Mr. Mayor, you're actually allowing for a speaker beyond now the right of reply.
I'm not.
You are, because you are asking for a clarification. Yes, I will get to that point if I'm possibly move.
Well, can we just, Councillor Marnie, just be careful, please.
Mr. Mayor, just like to clarify if all councillors tonight are aware of the code of conduct, including obligations relating to meetings and bullying, because some of the comments tonight have been pretty disparaging. And
Councillor Marnie, I think I was
okay, thanks.
Sorry. I will put the motion. I will put the amendment, and all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I think we'll have to go around the circle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll ask for your vote, please, on the amendment.
Against.
Councillor Borg?
Sorry.
Against. Thank you. Councillor Elmere?
For.
Councillor Green?
Against.
Councillor Jamieson?
Against.
Councillor Konjawski?
For.
Councillor Lansbury?
Against.
Councillor Liu?
For.
Councillor Marnie?
Against.
Councillor Mort?
Against.
Councillor Smerdley?
For.
Councillor Stratokopoulos? Councillor Symington?
150% against.
Councillor Tegg?
Against.
Councillor Wang?
Against.
That's 5 votes for, 10 votes against.
Declare the amendment lost. We now go back to Councillor Symington's original motion, and I think you've got the right of reply.
Sorry, Councillor Councillors, can I just ask a question?
Sorry.
Just quickly, and it's all Councillor Symington. I just want to give her the opportunity and her right of reply. That's all. I was fully supportive, as Councillor Symington was originally, of Councillor Tegg's, but now foreshadowed motion. I'm just concerned. This is a question to Councillor Symington. Where do we go if the minister declines the opportunity? Because at the moment, in the current motion, and that's why I was prepared to support this motion with Councillor Tegg's addition, at least we had somewhere to go. But currently, there is nowhere to go.
Councillor Symington.
Well, maybe we should add another part saying the results of that interaction come back to council, something like that.
January 2023.
Woohoo! There we go.
Councillor Symington, your right of reply, please.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to Councillor Liu and Councillor Stratokopoulos. I don't agree with their views. I'm not proposing to hand back the funding. If you actually read the motion, it says I'm saying to reallocate it to other Hurstville domains. Revitalisation can still happen, and we can have appropriate green space. To Councillor Liu, everything I've said has been based on fact. And for the record, the concerned businesses actually came to myself and Councillor Babalati in the last term of council. So this is not a new thing. They came then. And on reflection, I find it kind of unusual that Councillor Stratopoulos didn't actually make an even 4 and request that the funding be sent to Cogra Bay Ward so it could help all the residents in his ward. I find it unusual. I wonder why that didn't happen. And I'm not in the habit of telling this truth. I base things on fairness and equity. I can't do things like that. I have to believe in them. And just councillors who were on the previous term with Taylor Avenue, there's always seems to be someone you've got to demonise. Well, sometimes people, they need help, they need assistance, and that's what I'm doing here. So I'm sorry if some of you don't like it. That's what I'm doing.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Oh, well, let's go around the circle. Sorry. No, I think we'll go on record. Put it on record. Go around the. No, go. Could we actually go?
No, we didn't allow for the electronic voting this evening.
Sorry?
Mr Mayor, we did not allow for the electronic voting this evening. I was just responding to Councillor Green and some others asking for electronic voting. I'm happy to go around if that's what you would like. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, I'm taking your vote, please, on Councillor Symington's motion.
For.
Councillor Borg. For. Councillor Elmere.
Sorry, against.
Councillor Green.
Against.
Councillor Jamieson. For. Councillor Konjawski.
Excuse me, 150% against.
Councillor Lansbury.
200% for.
Councillors, let's stick
Councillor
to the to what we're doing, okay?
Sorry, it's me.
Councillor Liu, yes, thank you.
Against.
Against, thank you. Councillor Marnie.
For.
Councillor Mort.
Against.
Councillor Smerdley.
Against.
Sorry, what was that, Councillor Mort? You're changing your vote? And
Can we
you're
have
for?
the microphone on, please?
Okay. And you're for?
Yeah. Councillor Mort has changed her vote to for the motion. Thank you. I have Councillor Smerdley as against. Can I ask Councillor Stratopoulos? Against. Thank you. Councillor Symington.
Emphatically for.
Councillor Tegg.
Against.
And Councillor Wang.
For the motion.
That's 8 votes for, 7 votes against.
The motion carried. Now we'll go to the next potential transfer of that's fine. I think the next one is Councillor Konjawski. Potential transfer of public spaces legacy program funding to Riverwood Town Centre. I think it'll come up soon. Councillor Konjawski, are you going to move your motion?
Oh, sorry, it's there on the screen.
Sorry, Councillor Catchers, I know it's a dirty word tonight, but can I just get a clarification? Well, I'll ask. Just to clarify, what money is there currently to transfer anywhere? I'm not sure that these motions can be debated in their current form because technically there is no money to be transferred anywhere, because the previous motion, much as I disagreed with it and find inadequacies in it, what it did do, however, is, as Councillor Elmere has pointed out, postpone and delay this process even further. But as part of that delay, there's no money to reallocate anywhere. That's my interpretation. I just like your ruling.
I take your point. In the first instance, Councillor Green, I thought the same way. I thought that there is an issue with these motions being legal, but from what I gather, they're not actually proposing the money go directly to, let's say, Riverwood. They're asking for a report which is a waste of council officers' time, but they are, because you can't just do it. You're just going to do a report, which basically, I presume, and I'm not trying to preempt what that report's going to say, but the report is going to say, well, you can't really do it until we do the submissions, etc., etc. But if that's what Councillor Konjawski wants to move, then that's fair enough. We have to debate it. And I understand where you're coming from, Councillor Green. I totally agree with you. But technically, it's not actually directing the money there. It's asking for a report. So you may talk to your motion, Councillor Liu, and if we get a seconder. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Smerdley. Okay, we have a seconder. Councillor.
Did you say Councillor Liu or Councillor Konjawski?
Sorry, Councillor Konjawski. Sorry.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, I put this motion to you as you see it on screen. I don't need to read it out. I just feel that the money that we're missing out from Palm Court Car Park needs to go somewhere, and I think my ward is the right ward to collect some of that cash and spend on some open green space.
Councillor Smerdley. No, you don't want to talk. Councillor Elmere, you're speaking for it?
No, I want to move an amendment.
Okay. Your amendment.
Just for the sake of making it a lot more streamlined, I'd like to move to that motion exactly as it reads, but then include at the end of it, after the Revitalised and Reconnect Riverwood project, include the Mortdale Master Plan, the Mortdale Town Centre Revitalisation Project.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you go down further, the Upper Hardman Reserve.
What was that? I didn't quite hear that.
If you go down to my motion, which...
Well, that basically...
So I'm combining all three in one.
Yes, I get what you're doing. You're actually putting them together so we can get them over and done with. And can the other two withdraw their motions, please? They're obsolete. They become redundant. Okay, well, I'll. Does the second, Councillor Smerdley, do you accept the amendments? Okay.
It's got a. Yeah.
Sorry? Well, I think Councillor Konjawski, you've accepted the amendment? Is that yes or no?
Oh, sorry, mate.
No, I do not.
Sorry? Did you say no?
No, I do not.
No. Okay, well, you'll have to debate it then.
No, I'll second the amendment.
Seconded? Okay, well.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Mr. Mayor, look, very simply, I'm putting together all these projects as one motion, and I think it's pretty clear what the motion is asking for. That if this doesn't go ahead, then the general manager can provide us with a report to see how we can reallocate those funds into our other wards. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Elmere. Seconder?
Yeah, just to quickly say, I'm for streamlining this process. If we're going to produce a report, we might as well, I'm sure the results would be pretty much across all three, recognising, of course, ultimately it will be the decision of the state government where this funding ends up. Might I say, my great concern, one of my concerns with the previous discussion in regards to Palm Court is, in fact, if we are seen to be giving back state government funding as part of grant processes, if we're seen to reject this, then certainly something I'm passionate about, I know Councillor Konjawski is the actual upgrading of the Riverwood Town Centre Certainly I campaigned on that, and people have discussed already here tonight campaigns for the election program, and I certainly was campaigning on that, and that will require state government funding. And my big concern is if we're seen to be rejecting government grants, then they'll ignore us for projects in the future, such as the much needed revamping and upgrading of Riverwood Town Centre. So I support the, as you've indicated previously, Councillor Catras, and I take your advice. It is a report. Let's get the report.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Is anyone going to speak against the motion?
Right at the point.
Well, there's been 2 for, so I can put the motion. No one. Against. Against the amendment that you moved. Oh, Councillor Elmia and Councillor Green. Okay, thank you. Councillor Konjowski. Councillor Marnie.
Just a question, Mr. Mayor. Has Arthur Hardiman Reserve been gazetted yet?
Sorry?
Arthur Hardiman Reserve, has that been gazetted yet? I don't believe it has. Could maybe.
Don't think so. No, but
yeah, I'm not sure. Is the motion legal in that case? Thank you.
which one?
Mr Mayor, Council's resolved to name it Arthur Hardiman. I think the intent is clear. I have to take it on notice whether the Geographical Names Board has gazetted it, but I think the intention is clear. Former Oakley Bowling Club, Arthur Hardiman Reserve, same site.
Councillor Muddy, did you want to add to that?
I understand the name Arthur Hardiman Reserve has not been discussed by the GNB, and it won't be discussed until early May. So I'm not sure why we're referring to the Oakley Bowling Club or Marsden for Reserve as Arthur Hardiman Reserve.
Oh, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You wanted to speak against it.
I'm speaking against this amendment because, as Councillor Green pointed out, we both campaigned for the revitalisation of Riverwood, and I think that if we combine everything, then Riverwood unfortunately won't get the money.
Thank you, Councillor Konjowski. Is anyone wanting to speak for it? Actually, I'll put it. Did you want to? Oh, you're right. A reply, by all means. I'll put that. All those in favour? Let's go around the circle.
No.
Mr Mayor, your vote for the amendment, please.
I'm against it.
Councillor Borg? Against. Councillor Elmia? Councillor Green?
For.
Councillor Jamieson? Against. Councillor Konjowski?
No.
That's against. Councillor Konjowski, thank you. Councillor Lansbury?
Against.
Councillor Liu?
For.
Councillor Marnie?
Against.
Councillor Mort?
Against.
Councillor Smerdley?
For.
Councillor Stratokopoulos?
For.
Councillor Symington?
Against.
Councillor Tegg?
For.
And Councillor Wang?
Against.
That's 6 votes for, 9 votes against.
Declare the motion lost. Now we go to the next one. Oh, well, okay. We'll now discuss the first motion, the original motion without the amendment. Does anybody want to speak to this? No. I'll put it. Come on. Go around the circle again.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Your vote for the motion. Councillor Borg? Against. Councillor Elmia?
For.
Councillor Green?
For.
Councillor Jamieson? Against. Councillor Konjowski?
For.
Councillor Lansbury?
Against.
Councillor Liu?
For.
Councillor Marnie?
Against.
Councillor Mort?
Against.
Councillor Smerdley?
For.
Councillor Stratokopoulos?
For.
Councillor Symington?
Against.
Councillor Tegg?
For.
and Councillor Wang.
Against.
7 votes for, 8 against.
Thank you. I declare the motion lost. I will go now to the motion by Councillor Smerdley, referring to the Mortdale Town Centre. It'll come up in a minute.
Seconded, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Smerdley, second by Councillor Elmia. Councillor Smerdley.
Well, it's pretty self-explanatory. If the Hurstville Ward councillors don't want to help their own ward, I'm more than happy to ask that money be investigated to be transferred into my ward. And I'm sure Councillor Jamieson and Councillor Tegg would love to see more open space and streetscapes in our ward. Thank you.
Councillor Amir, do you want to talk to this? No. Does anyone to speak against it? Anyone? Look, I'll put it. All those in favour, let's go around the circle again.
Mr. Mayor, your vote for the motion, please.
Against?
Councillor Borg.
Against.
Councillor Elmia.
For.
Councillor Green.
Against.
Councillor Jamieson.
Against.
Councillor Konjarski.
For.
Councillor Lansbury.
Against.
Councillor Liu.
For.
Councillor Marnie.
Against.
Councillor Mort.
Against.
Councillor Smerdley.
For.
Councillor Stratokopoulos.
For.
Councillor Symington.
Against.
Councillor Tegg.
For.
And Councillor Wang.
Against.
6 votes for, 9 votes against.
Declare the motion lost, and we go to the final one by Councillor Elmir. Sorry, you're seconding it.
As moved, Mr. Mayor, I won't say any words unless I need to do a
Councillor Smith, did you want to say anything? Actually, I'm inclined to put it, unless anybody really wants to say something. Okay, can we put it? I'm putting it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Your vote for the motion.
Against?
Councillor Borg.
Against.
Councillor Elmia.
For.
Councillor Green.
For.
Councillor Jamieson.
Against.
Councillor Konjarski.
For.
Councillor Lansbury.
Against.
Councillor Liu. Councillor Marnie.
Against.
Councillor Mort.
Against.
Councillor Smerdley.
For.
Councillor Stratokopoulos.
For.
Councillor Symington.
Against.
Councillor Tegg.
For.
And Councillor Wang.
Against.
7 votes for, 8 against.
Declare the motion lost, and I believe that's the end of this business paper. Thank you for your participation. I really appreciate it.
Thank
And
you,
I declare the meeting closed at 7:34. Good.